Welcome to AM Muscle Maintenance with In Shape Fitness. I am Coach Kim, and today's podcast is called Working Your Way Up to Regular Push-Ups. I recorded a podcast just a few days ago about the benefits of being able to do 40 push-ups. Now, this is in reference to a study that was published by the Harvard Chan School of Public Health just a few months ago and was really just kind of circulated in the media last week about the benefit of doing 40 push-ups in relation to cardiovascular health and potential for cardiovascular conditions as you age. It was a 10-year study. It was just done on men, but I talked about a couple of days ago in the previous podcast, and I'm talking about it again today because the implications and the application for the benefits of being able to do the number of push-ups that they associated in their study with cardiovascular health, 40, is a really significant thing. But what's even more striking to me is that after I did that podcast, my team and I, we were inundated with questions about sort of the craziness of doing 40 push-ups because so many people they can't even do one push-up, maybe get to 10, maybe on their knees, and it's hard and they're not really doing them very well, they say, and they know it, but they want to obviously understand the significance of this potential, this potential sort of barometer, this metric. And it's such an easy thing for you to test yourself on. It's kind of like one of the simplest things that I do with clients in New York City to test for balance. And you got to be relatively strong. You can't be really unstable on your feet to do this. But if you stand up and you're standing with 2 feet on the ground, you lift 1 foot up, and then for 10 seconds only, you've got to close your eyes. You remove that sensory variable from your body, from your brain, and that activates your vestibular system even more, which causes you to go off balance really easily unless you have actual stability in the small muscles and soft tissues in your lower limbs. So it's just 10 seconds on each foot, but it is, but you shut your eyes, and it's a really good indicator of your stability, your balance. So that exercise, that sort of assessment is something that anyone can do. Being able to do 40 push-ups is, again, something that anyone can do. The other barometers, the other sort of tests that are run sometimes for cardiovascular health, of course, there's going to the doctor for an EKG, which, you have to do sometimes, particularly when you get older. I've had a couple of them. But that's not something that you're going to be able to do at home. And then there are things that fitness coaches use. I do this with my clients sometimes, step testing or treadmill testing. There are VO2 max tests that you can use to measure cardiovascular health, to oxygen uptake for the purposes of understanding a person's cardiovascular health. But being able to do the push-ups, that's what we're talking about today. So we got into it a little bit the other day, but I want to make sure that I talk you through the ins and outs of readying your body for actual push-ups. So let's talk about that, because why is a push-up difficult? That's the first thing that I think is important for us to cover before we get into the mechanics. Now, if you are able to do some exercises right now, if you're listening to this and you're able to get down on your floor, one thing that I definitely think you want to focus on is your breathing quality, your breath quality. So you're inhaling deeply through your nose, you are exhaling deeply through your mouth, and you are taking as much air in as you warm up your body, stimulate your brain, and get your sort of motivation ready to try some push-ups. You're taking in as much oxygen as you can, and then bellowing out all of that carbon dioxide through your mouth. So you inhale through your nose, bellow the air out through your mouth. And then on the floor, Drape your body down over your quads into child's pose, otherwise known as hedgehog, which I refer to it as sometimes here on my podcasts. And you can just walk your fingers as far away from your body as you possibly can, squish your butt down on top of your knees, and then take those extra deep breaths as we talk a little bit about the mechanics. So the main reason why push-ups are so challenging, the reason it's a cardiovascular exercise, is because you are in plank when you do push-ups. Your push-ups take place in a horizontal, levitated position for your body that is known as plank. You probably already know this, so I'm talking, preaching to the choir here. If you're listening to this podcast, I have no doubt in my mind that you know what a plank is, and we're going to do one in just a minute. We're going to hold it just for 30 seconds so that you get a sense for how difficult 30 seconds of plank is, because the thing about 40 push-ups is that they're going to take somewhere between 1.5 minutes and 2 minutes in terms of your pacing. You don't want to execute push-ups so fast that momentum is doing a lot of the work. You want to bend your elbows, lower your body towards the floor, and then push back up. And you want to maintain a relatively steady pace, inhaling as you lower down, exhaling as you push back up. So if you're just, popping down back and then lifting back up really, really, really super fast until you fatigue, number one, you're probably not going to get to 40 that way. Number two, you are going to, take some aid. Allow your body to be helped by that physical force momentum, which allows you to move with less effort. So plank for 30 seconds is the next thing that we're going to do. If you are able to, again, if you're sitting at a desk and you don't have time to do that, that's fine. But know that 30 seconds on the floor with your elbows down on the floor is a standard plank, elbow plank, low plank, however you want to call it. Your elbows and your shoulders make a vertical line, one straight line, and then you walk your feet back out and your time is going. Now, if it hasn't already, you should definitely get to it. And make sure that you continue to breathe. Now, you might not be able to breathe deeply in a plank. You can have little shallow breaths, but just make sure that you are inhaling and exhaling. Also, make sure that your butt is down. Once your butt lifts up into the air and you have now an angle at your pelvis between the thigh and your lower trunk, if there is anything but a straight line in terms of that hinge of your body, you're not actually in plank. Your body needs to be straight. Your hip flexors, your quads need to be fully straightened out in order, and your knees should be straight as well. But if you're on your knees, then that's a little bit different. You are finished with that 30 seconds. So go ahead and rest back down in child's pose again and take like 3 deep breaths. And then what I want you to do is sit up onto your heels, because the next thing that I want you to do is make some arm circles and just warm up your rotator cuff. Now, remember, the thing about push-ups is that you're not on your elbows, you're actually on your hands. So one of the complaints, I hear this a lot, and I already knew this before the complaints came in after the podcast from last week, but one of the complaints about push-ups also is the strength of people's wrists. Wrists in 2019 or the 21st century are different than they used to be. People generally did things with their hands in previous generations, and we don't have to go back that far in history to see the difference. I write about this in my book, Darwin on the Treadmill, and the just general things that we did with our lives in terms of lifting up our kids more and reaching for things, doing some of our housework, gardening a little bit, active recreation, things like horseback riding and tennis playing and golf playing and throwing balls and catching things. All of those activities required the extension of the fingers and the grip of your hands, and your wrists did not fatigue. But nowadays, the significance of the atrophy can be really easily understood by trying to do something with your hands on the floor. And that's why another reason why push-ups are so hard. So you've got the difficulty of holding the plank, and just that contraction, the automatic contraction of so much soft tissue. It's a physics issue, and I'm not a star physics thinker, so you're going to have to just trust me on this. It's physics, and what happens when you are in that horizontal position is that all of the muscles, there are muscles that line your ribs, between each rib. There are muscles that wrap your rib cage as a whole. There are muscles that are run up and down the sides. Those are called obliques. You might have heard of those. You've got the front muscle, the back muscle, all of that muscle tissue in conjunction with the ligaments and the tendons and your fascia underneath your skin. All of that is contracting at the same time. And as a result, your heart is required to pump more oxygenated blood out to all of this soft tissue. So between that and the wrists, you've got really significant challenges if you really truly live a sedentary life. If your only wrist action is typing on a keyboard, or your thumbs on an iPhone or some other kind of device. So what you want to try to do after you've done those arm circles now is just sit comfortably. And you can do this in a desk. Try to get people to do this all the time. I know it sounds a little bit silly, but learn the sign language alphabet with your hands. If you can remember how to just do that alphabet, or make various similar hand gestures in terms of opening your hands out wide, jazz hands, kind of your fingers really out wide, and then make a fist and open wide, make a fist, open wide. If you can do the sign language alphabet, that's even better. But you want your fingers to have an opportunity to limber up. And that will help you once you put your hands on the floor and try some of those push-ups. Now, what else can we do to prepare? So the other thing that you want to do to prepare is think about modified versions of push-ups that you can try. So almost everyone, even my older clients, and you guys know I have a couple of clients that are getting on in age. I've got one guy who's turning 91 in about a month. And when we try these for the very first time, we do them against a wall. 40 push-ups against the wall, amazingly enough, even for relatively fit people, is work. Because again, you're not in plank in this position, obviously, but you are pushing your body, pushing up against something, which does require the contraction of some of your tummy muscles, and it requires your concentration. It requires a complete flat body, and your hands are splayed and your shoulders are activated. You're using your back. And so trying 40 push-ups against the wall is something that anyone can do. Beyond that, what I've had a couple of clients do is try 10 push-ups in the regular position with your hands on the floor. Again, your hands on the floor still must make a straight line with your shoulders, though I often have people widen their hand stance a little bit in order to use a little more of the chest when you execute the movements itself. All right, so 10 push-ups on the floor, 10 push-ups on your knees, and then the last 20 push-ups against the wall. All right, so 10, 10, and 20. You can try that combination. Now, the other thing that you can do and should do is to make sure that you are stretching out your body and activating the rest of your body as you work your way towards being able to do 40 push-ups. And by the way, 40 push-ups on your knees, especially if you are a female, is pretty much the same thing. The lever is slightly shortened, so I wouldn't, I just, if you can do 40 on your knees, you're doing 40 push-ups. Try 40 push-ups on your toes if you want, but again, it is still 40 push-ups. I'm Coach Kim from In Shape Fitness. I'll be back next week with another new podcast on the AM Muscle Maintenance channel. And if you have any more questions about push-ups, please let us know. Have a great day.